You know, for the longest time, the way we dealt with industrial pollution was, well, pretty simple. Just clean up the mess afterward. But what if that whole approach was backwards? Today, we're diving into a really powerful shift in thinking, from just treating pollution to stopping it before it even starts. Let's get into it.
So for ages, this was just how things were. If you want to make stuff, you're going to make waste. It's just the cost of doing business, right? An unavoidable part of progress. But the big question became, what if it's not? That's the core idea that started to fall apart.
Okay, so to really get this new way of thinking, we've got to understand the old way first. And honestly, it was a very, very linear view of the world.
I mean, just look at how simple this model is. You put raw materials, energy, and labor in one end, and out the other end, you get your finished products. And waste. Waste wasn't even a problem to be solved. It was just an output. The end of the story.
Right, so if you think waste is just going to happen no matter what, what's your game plan? You treat it? This was the famous end-of-pipe solution. After the whole production process was done and you had your waste, you just stick a treatment plant or a big filter at the end of the line to deal with it. Problem solved. Or so everyone thought. But the problem is, this whole end-of-pipe thing had a couple of massive flaws. First, it was super inefficient. You were literally throwing away valuable materials and just calling them waste. And second, and this is the ironic part, the process of treating the pollution often created new kinds of waste. You weren't really solving the problem, you were just changing its shape. And that's when people started to realize, hey, maybe we're looking at this all wrong. This led to a huge, fundamental shift in philosophy. Instead of managing waste at the end, the new focus became about preventing it from ever being created.
And this quote here from a really important EU directive just nails the problem perfectly. If you focus only on stopping air pollution, you might just end up moving those pollutants into the water supply. You see, the problem isn't gone, it's just moved.
So here's the game changer. The new objective wasn't just to reduce pollution at the end of the pipe. It was to prevent it right at the source and to look at the environment as one big interconnected system.
Okay, so a great philosophy is one thing, but how do you actually do it in the real world? Well, that's where this concept called BAT comes in. It stands for Best Available Techniques.
Now, this definition might look a little dense, but let's just pull out the important bits. The key phrases are most effective and advanced, prevent, and impact on the environment as a whole. It's all about using the smartest, most modern ways to protect the entire environment, not just one little piece of it. Let's actually break down what BAT means, letter by letter. Best just means the most effective way to protect the environment overall. Available is super important. It means the technology has to be something you can actually use, both technically and economically. This isn't science fiction. And techniques, well, that's not just the machine itself. It's the whole shebang, how you design it, build it, run it, and maintain it. And finding the right bat for a job isn't like picking something off a shelf. It's a whole process. As you can see in this funnel, you start out with a whole bunch of options when you're just designing things. Then, as you move along, you start to narrow them down, using specific criteria to find the absolute best fit for the job. All right, so that's the theory. Cool concept, but what does this actually look like in a real factory? Let's get into how industries are actually making this happen. There are basically two ways you can go about this. The first is what we call a partial modification. Think of it as upgrading your current setup. The main process stays the same, but you add smart things like internal recycling to capture waste and make it more efficient. Or you can go for a total change. This is the big one. You completely scrap the old way of doing things and replace it with something brand new and much cleaner, which usually takes a lot of research. And here you can see exactly what I mean. On the left, it's about adjusting and optimizing the system you already have, making the flows smarter. On the right, it's about tearing up the old blueprints and starting over with a totally new, fundamentally better process. And we're talking about some seriously cool tech here. This isn't just theory. Imagine replacing messy vats of chemicals with clean, dry vacuum treatments, or using superheated plasma for thermochemical processes. These aren't just small tweaks. They're innovations that are totally changing how things get made, sometimes eliminating entire categories of waste. Okay, so this all sounds great, but here's the million-dollar question. Did it actually work? Did shifting from end-of-pipe to prevention really make a difference? Well, the data gives us a pretty clear answer.
Let's look at this data from a study by the French Ministry of Environment. It's really fascinating. It tracks how much different approaches reduced environmental impact over about 10 years. You can see that just optimizing an existing process got better over time, going from a 25% to a 37% reduction. But the real story is in that last line.
And this chart really drives the point home. That process change, remember the complete overhaul we talked about, showed the biggest improvement. Its effectiveness in reducing environmental impact jumped from 33% all the way up to 42%. This is solid proof that the boldest strategies, the ones focused on prevention from the ground up, give you the biggest bang for your buck in the long run.
So where does all of this lead? What's the end game? Well, it brings us to this idea. The ultimate goal is minimum waste production. Not necessarily zero waste, that can be tough, but getting as close as humanly possible. It's a total reversal of that first simple model we looked at.
You know, this whole story leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. We often frame technology as part of the problem, but this journey from treatment to prevention shows it's our most powerful tool for the solution. So the question isn't whether we can have industry or a healthy planet. It's about how we can use our own ingenuity to design an industry that, by its very nature, helps the planet thrive. What do you think?